Lead us in Pledge of Allegiance, please.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You could please remain standing for a moment of silence for the law enforcement and military that have lost their lives in the line of duty. Join me now, please. Thank you.
Roll call, please.
Roll call. Councilmember Baptista.
Present.
Councilmember Aguilar.
Present.
Councilmember King.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Garcia.
Present.
Mayor Samra.
Present.
For the record, council members, Mayor Pro Tem, and Mayor are in attendance.
Changes the agenda, council.
You want to move the item number 7 to the front?
Yes. Okay, we're going to move the revenue sharing portion front of the consent calendar. And, okay, we'll move on to item number 1. This is a presentation by Rick Soria, Livingston Soccer Club presentation. You have go ahead, please.
I'd like to announce to here for Merced County and the city of Livingston, the first professional soccer team here in the city of Livingston, which is Livingston Cachorros Soccer Club, Cachorros, which means Cubs. I founded this club back in 1983, so we do have some veteran players. Most of the players now, well, they're in their 50s or older, so there'll be more like staff, but we're getting younger players. I have some banners up in front by Livingston Union School District fence line, some banners, but we're not starting until next year. I have a pretty good roster. We've played a couple of scrimmage games. I did lose my keeper to a broken pinky on a game up in the Bay Area against Fraulito, which is a club established over 80 years, almost close to 90 years now. And then we played a Salinas team. Both we did a draw 0-0. So I'm looking forward for the community to come in and watch us play. We're going to be using the Livingston Complex to play some of our home games. Basically, it's a 10-team division in the Wild West division for the United Premier Soccer League, which is under the Major League Soccer. So a stepping stone will be for some of the players to become professional players under our franchise. And I'm still looking for talent here in the city of Livingston, so if there's any players that want to play competitive professional soccer, I'm more willing and welcome to take that responsibility to add them onto the team. And like I said, it's basically, I do run a soccer league, and this, so it's getting a little bit hectic for me. I seen today out there the Livingston complex with a lot of the NorCal and City of Livingston. There's a bunch of kids out there playing too, so a lot of them think it's a youth team, but actually it is a semi-pro team, which will start in the 2020. And then during the rest of the season, we'll be doing scrimmage games to get a little bit more talent. It'll be a roster of 20 players. The games would either be on a Friday or on a Tuesday, so it won't be anything on Saturday or Sunday, which would interfere with the other leagues. And like I said, it's Livingston Cachorro Soccer Club, founded in 1983. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to announcements and reports. Supervisor Espinoza.
Good evening, Council and citizens of Livingston. I'm glad I saw that I wasn't able to arrive early for the tax sharing agreement, so, and I don't want to give my input anyway, because of course I got to make a vote on it later on. But I hope the council members had enough time to ask good, questions and have more info before making the right decision. So I'd just like to report out that I attended the Jose Moran's Young Men's Conference last Saturday. It was awesome. I don't know, it seemed like a couple hundred kids that they were there. I think they're all happy, and the city manager gave a good talk to the kids, and I think they were all motivated, and so good. Try to instill good morals to all the kids. I attended one of the sessions where we had Elidio Gamino from Fresno and a couple other gentlemen. They were teachers, and what they brought some pamphlets and regarding if any kid, I think between 7th and 8th grade all the way to high school is able to attend college when they're in high school, and so the college courses will be free usually, and so if they attend college, if you take one course in college, it'll count for 3 credit for up to 10 credits of that in high school. So they had a picture of 3 young girls there. They graduated from the high school, I think it was last year, and by the time they graduated high school, they finished with their AA degree in college. So that was awesome. And one of them went to UC Berkeley. I forget where the others went to, but I think it was pretty amazing that these bright girls were able to obtain all these college courses, AA degree, and go on to a university. So, but these gentlemen that had the class, they have a nonprofit organization. So since the college courses are that the kids taken in college, whether in high school, the books are not free in college. But if through this organization, they will gladly pay for the books. So, and I asked, does that, because they're in Fresno County, but would that be, would that be effective over here in Merced College? They say, yeah, just give us a call and we'll gladly help you pay for the book. So that's, I don't know how much they happen and how much they can pay, but they said, I guess, if they receive grants through their nonprofit, they're able to pay for those schools, for those books. I also attended last week, RCRC conference in Lake Tahoe. It's the rural counties of rural California, where our county is part of it, with the 37 other counties in California. We're more rural instead of the big counties and with big cities. And there's a few sessions. One of the sessions was that it stated where Sonoma County, up north of Napa, that they passed a bond, or 1/8 cent bond, in their county, and that was able to pay, provide enough funds to do a lot of stuff for the libraries system, in which they have like 15 libraries in Sonoma County, but they used a lot of those funds to buy Chromebooks and Wi-Fi, and so the Wi-Fi, those little boxes that they could carry, so they provide them to kids. There's a lot of low income kids in Sonoma County as well, and so it's on a first come first serve basis, and they can check them out. They check them out. I don't know. I can't remember how long they could check them out. Probably a day or two, and then they have to bring them back, and then get in line again. And they're trying to buy more Chromebooks so that enough kids. So the library, because we had the state librarian there, and so if the more the kids study, the less likely to commit crime. They're more engaged in their communities. It helps the economy, and keep them out of prison. So that was pretty good. They also had numbers on another session regarding international terrorism and domestic terrorism. Then supposedly CIA and the NSA at one time, during the year, they're always checking up on about 5,000 people around the world regarding international terrorism and domestic terrorism that happens right here too. There are up to 1,000 people they're investigating at one point. I also attended the Winton Hispanic Rotary. They had a mariachi dinner yearly dinner, and I'm always so supportive, and I always donate $500 every year to that nonprofit, and they had a wonderful event, and a lot of the cultural, Hispanic cultural, dances and folkloric dancers, and of course the mariachi, which is, I don't know if whoever has me on Facebook was able to see, some of those talents there. And so if you see, the last thing I have is this Friday will be the Merced County Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, and from what I saw was Julio Valadez was chosen Man of the Year. So if you see Mr. Julio Valadez, congratulate him. I know he's doing a good job here in the city, as well as in the Merced Union High School Board. So that's it for me. If anybody has any questions.
Council, any questions of Supervisor?
For the public?
Public, any questions?
Yeah, something had come across my Facebook feed. It was an article by, I think it's a Merced Gateway News or something along like that. And it has to do with the County Board of Supervisors and discretionary funds. I remember back during the last campaign cycles, a lot of talk about these discretionary funds being like slush funds, and that they were voted to eliminate them. But in the article, it stated that the board voted to allow $100,000 in discretionary funds to be split amongst the supervisors, and I was just kind of wondering what changed your mind.
Well, it was, I supported having an assistant. So what I stated was I was pushing to have a part-time assistant for the last, since 2 years ago. And it was a part-time assistant, so 20 hours. So they based that $20,000 per supervisor. And that's what it stated on the budget. And as things changed, they said that $100,000 was still in the budget, even though we were moving forward with adopting the budget. But then all of a sudden it was changed to a part-time assistant, but semi discretionary funds, and so that's how they based it on, that it was more discretionary. So some of the supervisors said, well, you can use it as a full-time assistant, or part of that could be used as discretionary. And so what I was seeking personally was an assistant, and the one that brought it up as well was Supervisor Laura, which stated that she needed more support for to do a better job. And I think that it is a lot of work, and I'm okay without it. But of course, we're able to do a better job, because sometimes that's why I don't attend these meetings, because I have other committees with the MAC, in Planada, the MAC in La Grande. Sometimes they certain dates or other meetings they overlap, and I'm not able to attend. But it wasn't, my intention wasn't a discretionary fund, but that's the way they put it, and I'm seeking to having an assistant. So, but and we're supposed to get together with Supervisor Silvera and discuss what the policy will be. So it's not completely, well, it was on there as discretionary. So that was my reasoning for voting for it. And what I stated was that the Madera Board of Supervisors has a full-time chief of staff, which is a full-time assistant, and there are 100,000 people less than us. The county of Stanislaus has a part-time assistant, and other counties, of course, are bigger, have a 1 or 2 or 3 full-time assistants. And I don't think I need a full-time assistant right now, but that's what I sought, but it was changed to have a dual effect of assistant and discretionary. So, any other questions?
Thank you, Supervisor.
Thank you very much.
Staff announcements and reports. We'll start with Fire Department.
Good evening, City Council, Mayor, members of the public. This is our fire report for last month.
It worked.
There we go. I had to turn it on. So helps a little bit that way. All right, so last month in the city, we had 79 medical aids, 9 vegetation fires, 6 vehicle accidents, 2 structure fires, 1 debris fire, 8 alarm soundings, 2 firefighter standbys, and 3 public assists. In the county, we had 13 medical aids, 13 vegetation fires, 11 vehicle accidents, 3 vehicle fires, 5 structure fires, 1 debris fire, 1 alarm sounding, 1 standby, and 1 PSA. So total incidents year to date is we've had 1,386 incidents. Of that, 843 were in the city and 545 were in the county. The PCS responded to 67%, and 82% was within our initial call volume, or initial call area, and our call volume is up 7%. And we'll also start seeing an increase in our PCF response once the harvest is done, because right now they're all out working. So for training, we did fire department connections and volunteers. We're just finishing up on some host testing. Of course, we do the standbys for the Livingston High School football game, whether it be the JV or the varsity. So sometimes some weeks we're there Thursday and Friday night providing EMS for standby that our volunteers graciously volunteer their time to go do. And then along with PD, we went to Campus Park for 9/11. And then the volunteers went to Yamato Colony Elementary School. And then we just want to remind everybody that Halloween is coming. So if you can, try to use flameless candles, use some LED lights. Try not to have any burns this year. And I forgot to put it on there, but also we have our baseball game coming up on the 12th that we like to invite everybody to. And, you could watch PD out there losing the trophy.
Ooh.
Just hand it over now. Any questions?
Council? Public? If not, just to make it even, police department? Report or response, please? Report or response? Thank you.
Thank you.
Does the police department have a report?
Mayor, council, members of the community, Sergeant Ray Fong. I just want to cover a couple of things that those of you who follow our Facebook feed probably are already aware of these incidences. For the last month or so, we had problems with people breaking into our Veterans of Foreign War building. They burglarized it, vandalized it, broke a bunch of tables and such. If you're not familiar with the Veterans of Foreign War, it's a local volunteer group. They survive on donations only. So the building's been there, since I was a kid. So these crimes really impacted their ability to help veterans, which is what the group is for. So luckily we were able last week to catch 2 of the juveniles that had been breaking in, and they were booked in juvenile hall for the attempt burglary. And since then, so far, we have not had another break-in, so we're hoping that took care of that problem. But if anybody wants to make a donation to the Veteran Foreign War, get a hold of either Dennis Wells, or if you know a member of the VFW, just make a donation, help them recuperate some of the loss. Secondly, we have, in the past couple of weeks, had a number of Hondas stolen, and I've discussed Hondas before. 1980s to mid-2000 Hondas are one of the most stolen vehicles in the country. We had 4, and we have been working with Foster Farms because a couple of those were taken off their property. Luckily, yesterday, our own Officer Dami was on patrol and recognized an area that we had found a stolen vehicle from before, and he saw a Honda there, ran the plate, came back stolen. The person was still in the vehicle, so we were able to arrest him for the possession of a stolen vehicle. And so far, we have not had another report. So hopefully that's, if not the person that's been committing those crimes, at least one of them. So if you do have one of these vehicles, and also Chevy pickups, early model Chevy pickups, just take the time to either park them in the garage, or if you want to get an alarm system with ignition cutoff. They are just stolen all the time. It's countrywide. It's just the way the vehicles are designed. Lastly, tomorrow from 2 to 5 at our local Starbucks, we're going to have coffee with a cop. Our bicycle unit will be out there during that time. So if you have time, if you have any questions for a police officer that you might want to ask, whether dealing with your kids or any crime prevention tips, come out and talk to us. It'll be free coffee. I think last year they had desserts also, but I can't promise that. That's Starbucks. So we're working together with Starbucks for that program. So that's 2 to 5 tomorrow. Come out if you can. Any questions?
Council, any questions for?
Yes, I got a question. Last weekend, I was at the Sweet Potato Festival. I didn't notice any cops on bikes. I know we got, I think, 4 officers. That would have been a perfect opportunity for them to patrol.
Yeah, the way the bike team is divided, 2 of the officers are from, we have 2 squads in our police department that work opposite each other. So 2 of the officers are from one squad, the other 2 from the other squad. So on any one day of the week, we can, for a special festival like that, we have to bring people that aren't working the streets already. So it happened that team that was put together didn't include enough officers on the bike unit to have it out there, but that is a good idea, and I think that and the horse unit would be good too.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Audience, public? Thank you, Sergeant.
Welcome.
Mr. Grant, anything to report from financial?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, nothing tonight.
Okay, Public Works, Anthony?
Good evening, Your Honorable Mayor, council members, members of the public. I do not have a formal presentation to present this evening, but I did want to take this opportunity to recognize 2 Public Works employees. First employee I'd like to recognize for going above and beyond normal job duties is Art Romero. Art, if you could come up. Art's being, stand right here, Art. Art's being recognized for going above and beyond, not just this one instance, but quite a bit. He's always excelling. Art's our fleet mechanic, our head fleet mechanic, and we're recognizing him this evening. Not too long ago, we're setting up for the Sweet Potato Festival. A lot to set up. Well, Public Works is out there. Time ran out. Instead of going home, Art ripped off his shirt, his work shirt. He had one underneath, and and volunteered his time until it was completed. So thank you, Art, for going above and beyond. Your hard work is recognized, and we do appreciate it. The second employee I'd like to recognize is Mr. James Lennon. James, if you could come up. It's another workhorse here. James is always going above and beyond during work. James is being recognized. The other day, he was on his bike. It was after work. He clocked out already, and he was driving by City Hall, and he seen the city manager out there directing traffic in front of Fortuna's. Well, Fortuna's was on fire. So James jumped off his bike and assisted the city manager in directing traffic on his own. And these are just two great examples of our employees going above and beyond and giving back, and we do appreciate you. Thank you, James.
There you go.
Are there any questions for Public Works?
Council, any questions? Public? Well, no, thank you.
Thank you.
City manager announcements and reports?
Yes, Honorable Mayor and Council and public, there's a few items that I do have. One is a reminder, there's going to be a groundbreaking ceremony on October 29th next to the Motel 6 at 10 o'clock. And this is going to be for the third lane that they're planning on installing going towards Turlock. So again, it will be the northbound, and we'll have the ceremony, the groundbreaking ceremony with other elected officials outside of the city of Livingston, Caltrans individuals. So hopefully you guys can attend, again, October 29th at 10. The other thing I want to share is, I know that there's several council members and public that have been wondering about the pink store that's over here off of Main Street and Peach. And so we got inquiries, we started to get inquiries from the property owners about doing a lot split. So that leads me to believe that they're going to want to sell off, either both properties or at least one. And so the back portion, of course, is open land, and the pink store, they started to do some little minor remodeling in there. So hopefully we can put that to good use and start generating some sales tax and some employment. The other thing is we got a submittal by the Auto Sales. They bought some property along the Campbell corridor there, and they're going to put in, I believe it's going to be about 32 show lots for used auto sales place. They're going to build about somewhere close to about 1,300 square feet facility, and so that's going to make its way through to the Planning Commission, and et cetera, et cetera. The other one is related to the decommissioning of the Foster Farms. As you might know, city owns about 100 acres, but not all 100 acres back over there by the industrial was used by Foster Farms, about 86 acres worth, and that's the industrial wastewater plant. Well, they've been on this plan of decommissioning that property back in there. They haven't been able to get to where they really want to because the hydraulic loading that's happening out there, they need to get it back to the state that they actually acquired the property from us. So the different entities that are involved are monitoring that. So they still need to plant more different crops out there to have the plants actually remove some of the nitrates from the ground. And so that'll continue, and we don't know exactly until when, but it's ongoing. And then lastly, I know that a lot of our council members are going to be the week of the 15th, which is when we have our next planned council meeting. They're going to be at the League of California Cities. So currently, we don't have that many items scheduled for the 15th, but if so, we can always program a special council meeting on the week of the 21st when you guys are back. And so we'll kind of play it by ear, but for right now, we're thinking that no council meeting for the week of the 15th, which is when the next council.
Before you continue, we had an item that we wanted to bring just to make sure who's attending the conference. You are? You're a voting delegate? Okay. All right, I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. And then lastly, as you guys all might remember, we mentioned that there's a planned truck stop that's planned on the Campbell and Hammett. So we've been pushing them along. We've been checking in with them constantly. They've made some modifications, but I anticipate them submitting their plans for review in the next 3 weeks. So, unless you have any questions for me, that's it. Thank you so much.
Any questions for city manager? If not, then move on to city council member announcements and reports. Nothing? Anybody? Mr. Aguilar?
Yeah, just want to give a big shout out to Jose for his Young Men's Conference. Excellent work, excellent resource for the young men in our community. Once again, it was a good event, and I know being there, I know everybody enjoyed it, and it was pretty successful, I would say. So good job, and to your team.
Thank you. Mr. King?
No, nothing to report.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Nothing to report at this time.
Okay, for me, I do have a few items. Since we're not going to have a meeting on October 15th, is everybody going to be here on the next meeting in November? Yeah, it's the 5th. Is everybody planning to be here? I understand things can happen, but so far, it's good? Okay, we are, and please do not read anything into this, but the city manager evaluation is coming up, so I would like to schedule that as a closed session for November 5th. This is routine, nothing, don't read anything into it, folks. Okay? And then some of the things, as you know, from time to time, we need to evaluate things. One of the things I'd like for the council to look at, and no particular date, but is do we still think we should have our 4th of July or the July events for 3 days and the Sweet Potato Festival, or can it be done a little better condensed into 2 days? I'd like to bring up later at another date to see if we can have that discussion. Maybe we can do that when we do our end of the year or mid-year budget review. Maybe it can be scheduled at the same time. Okay? I'm not predicting a particular date. I just want to get everybody to start thinking about that.
And that's something, just FYI, that's something that was discussed also with the Recreation Commission this past meeting.
Yeah, so just something for us to kind of start thinking about if whatever, because, we do have to evaluate things every so often here and there, And also, street fair. We need to look at why is it, I remember when it used to be vibrant and healthy, and a lot of vendors, and it's kind of shrunk. Maybe we need to evaluate why, or what we can do to help it, or do we need to have somebody different and we put an RFP for someone else to manage it, or do we think that it's no longer viable and not work with it? So that's another item I think we need to look at.
Just real quick. Yeah, that's another item that was discussed during the Recreation Commission. So that's very good points that, as a council, we should definitely have a discussion.
Yeah, what I like to do is, when we do the mid-year review, maybe we can do it in December or January. We'll kind of look at how it goes, no particular date, and then maybe these items can be discussed at that time or prior, and we'll have a better idea where we are as far as budgets, how much were they augmented by others, and we know that. So we know that kind of gives us a little clearer picture, and what do we want to do in the future with this. And that's all I have for now. And we'll now move on to citizens' comments. This session of the agenda allows a member of the public to address the city council on items not otherwise on the agenda. Members of the public, when recognized by the mayor, should come forward to the lectern and identify themselves. Comments are normally limited to 3 minutes. In accordance with the state open meeting laws, no action will be taken by the city council this evening. For items which are on the agenda this evening, members of the public will be provided an opportunity to address the city council as she brought items up. Citizen comments, anybody?
David Blevins, P.O. Box 76, Livingston. I've got several questions. I'll ask them real quick and then get out of the way, and you guys can answer them for me. Going back to the recreation, you know, we were in the deficit, and we had to move money. I have no problem spending money on recreation. My main questions were, there was a couple of expenditures that I questioned. The first one was the 4th of July. It wasn't budgeted for. We spent $10,000 on fireworks. My question is, who made that decision, and what was the reasoning behind it? The second one I had was the Sweet Potato Festival. We were about $8,000 in the hole. I pulled the expenditures for the Sweet Potato Festival, and I found something interesting. There was quite a few refunds. It looks like all the vendors were refunded their money to the tune of about $11,000. So my question is am I missing something? You know, who made that decision to refund the money? What was the reasoning behind it? And those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ramirez, are you prepared to respond at this time, or do you wish to?
Yeah, no, I'll go ahead and respond. Thank you, Mr. Blevins, for your questions. As it relates to the 4th of July and the $10,000, the 4th of July committee basically came before, if I'm not mistaken, they came before the council, and then they came to visit me. And so there was a decision that was made to help augment. They didn't have the sufficient funds to be able to carry on the actual 4th of July spectacular. We told them that they couldn't, that they needed to reduce the dollar amount that they were projecting, and that we would only be able to help with the $10,000. So I think they had a $36,000 projection. We said we could not help them with more than $10,000. And so, as a matter of fact, we discussed looking at the 4th of July, restructuring, trying to figure these things out, because fiscally, you know, the city, we're the fiscal agent, but we are not responsible for any of the expenditures. And so we need to, as a council, we need to really look at this and help them or figure this thing out, whether we take over or we look at somebody else. But we've had some of these discussions with Mr. Valadez.
My question, you know, basically is, you know, you wonder why you're in a deficit. That was $10,000 that wasn't budgeted for. So, you know, I question that.
Yes,
was that
sir.
discussed with the council, or was that your decision?
Well, I have authorization to expend $10,000. And so at the time when these decisions are made, you have to look at all of the moving parts in that moment in time. So my decision was to go ahead and authorize a $10,000 expenditure for that purpose. And so that's where it's stands.
You have every right to do that. Now, did the council question that at all, or did they just?
Well, that's why we're looking at everything, everything from the standpoint of the street fair to, you know, the different festivals that we have, because we really, I mean, bottom line, we should at least break even. And so, yeah, so we're looking at all expenditures at this point.
Can I say something real quick? We actually discussed that at the last council meeting, and that was brought up to their attention. Thank you.
Mr. Espinoza?
Rodrigo Espinoza, Livingston. Well, I'm going to talk a little bit about the street fair. The street fair, all these years, the problem has been the management. And I've addressed it to the city manager, to the council. The management is not doing a good job. The only year that it did well, and it was huge, was when we brought in Luis and Irene de la Cruz. They did an excellent job, even though they didn't get the support of the management that was the existing management to run it. They were able to take it up, and we had both streets full of, I think everybody remembers. It was packed. Everybody came in and did a lot of activities. But with the current management, I don't think they have the will to push I'm willing to be upfront and look at it because I have to deal it. I'm the one that pushed it from being a 1-month street fair to being from May to October because I did farmers markets in the Bay Area for 2 years back in 2010 and 11. So I know that we were doing good, and all this talk, I'll be here for the meetings when we discuss it. We need to find somebody. If we can't get the people that used to run it, somebody else. But that's the problem, is the management. And, the vendors just want to perform well. There's days that are too hot, there's days that some people can't come, but, when you have issues, and you got to be able to work with the vendors. Otherwise, we won't be able to have enough people downtown, and it's not effective for the community, and the city ends up losing more money, So another issue is the fireworks. I think countywide is becoming an issue, not just in our city. If you go to Ponara, anywhere in Merced County, excuse me, too many illegal fireworks, and that's going to be in the future of whether we want to continue having, in the county or in the cities, having fireworks. I think it's just having it, the fireworks with the city and getting funds and, running up funds from businesses and from the community to have the event. I think it's good enough because I know that, everybody complains about, I had to call in a few times. I think all the neighbors complaining about, they keep on going on during not just the 4th of July, but for weeks and months after, or even right now, sometimes they pop up everywhere, and they're dangerous. I want to remind the council that the League of Cities is very important because it's like, the conferences that I attend, the League of Cities annual conference is very educational for all the members. Plus, you meet a lot of council members and mayors from all over the state, and you learn so much. I attended the 14 years I was here on the city council, and I made a lot of friends, and you can pick up a phone and call somebody if you need advice on anything in the city, and so a lot of good friendship and education wise. We also too there's going to be the NALEO annual conference. No, this is a not the annual, but
Mr. Espinoza, 3 minutes.
Sorry. The NALEO conference is coming up on December 6th and 7th in Phoenix, Arizona. That's to all the electeds. It'll be a class on finance and management, and also the annual meeting next March, but I'll continue that one later on. So thank you for your 4 minutes.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
See, we treat everybody the same. Supervisor or no supervisor, Mr. Espinoza, 3 minutes. Okay, anybody else for a citizen's comment?
Thank you, Ms. Blevins. As it relates to the sweet potato, when we had this, we're talking about last year. You're talking about specifically about 2018 sweet potato. If you might recall, last year, as it relates to the sweet potato festival, we had some issues with. There was a number of different issues that were going on out there, and it was only fair. There wasn't enough people that showed up on certain days, so the decision was made to refund the vendors back, and that's one of the reasons why we actually refunded them. So that's what happened in 2018.
Catherine Shaw Rodriguez, P.O. Box 163, Livingston. I've got a question and then a statement. My question is, we've already heard about Fortuna's and their unfortunate fire. My question is, has anyone heard anything about their plans and whether or not they intend on rebuilding or coming back in business, and if so, about how long?
Yes, hi, Catherine. As a matter of fact, first of all, thank God that nobody got hurt,
Yeah.
and that it was caught in time. And those folks over there is very resilient, so believe it or not, they had hired a contractor the same day. So the next day, the contractor was at City Hall talking to staff, and we are basically working with them with all the permits. So they plan to open as soon as possible. They've been, as of the next day, working, they've been actually cleaning where they can, and working with the different departments to make sure of safety and power and, you know, all that stuff. So in terms of time frame, I anticipate they'll be back in business probably by the end of the year.
By the end of the year?
Yeah. If not, I mean, they're going super fast, so, I mean, that's just a guess.
Well, it would be great if they could be back in time before Christmas. It would be nice. Now I have, this is more or less a statement. Given that the League of Cities came up, I'm looking at a printout of expenditures for council travel that goes from January of this year through only August. And so far, we've spent about $16,000 on flights, hotels, and meals to places like Las Vegas and Hawaii. And I'm hoping that after the council comes back from the League of Cities, we will be having a PowerPoint presentation, something that we can all see as to what we, the residents, are getting out of sending people to four-star hotels and other places and other parts of the country. I think it's only fair that if we're going to be spending that kind of money on Hawaii, Las Vegas, and so on, that we at least get a really good presentation, PowerPoint presentation, with handouts and flyers so that we can all go home and be content that it's money well spent. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public? If not, this item is now, the citizen comment is now closed. We're going to bring up the item number 7. This is a resolution approving the property tax sharing agreement between the city of Livingston and the county of Merced. Mr. Grant?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Members of the council, we completed a study session on this topic. We started it at 5:30 this evening. We completed it at 7. So I'm going to kind of do a Reader's Digest version, if that's okay.
Yes.
And then if there are questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Currently, there is no revenue sharing agreement between the county and the city. And a revenue sharing agreement is necessary in order for any annexation of unincorporated county property to be brought into the city. There's a proposed agreement that's for your consideration this evening. I will just briefly go through the deal points, and then again, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. The major points of the proposed agreement are to provide 100% of the fire fund that is paid through the property taxes within the city of Livingston. That would go to the county. This is the same as the prior agreement that was canceled back in 2009. The second part is the sharing of general fund property taxes, where the city would basically receive 100% of the ad valorem base and increment. The city ERAF would be subtracted, which is a much lower number than the county ERAF, And then that net number would be split between the county and the city. 63% to the county, 37% to the city. Under the prior agreement, there was a little different calculation on the ERAF, but the way it worked was that 75% went to the county and 25% went to the city. The county kept all the base. It was just based on increments. So it's a better deal for the city that is currently being proposed. A couple items that are in here that weren't in the prior agreement that was canceled was the sharing of sales tax. This is sales tax citywide, and starting January 1, 2024, the city would share 5% of its 1%, and then effective January 1, 2029, the city would share 7.5% of its 1%, so it would go up by 2.5%. So just so everyone's clear, the sales tax is from citywide. The property tax sharing is only from newly annexed areas. The term of the agreement would continue for a period of 10 years, but under certain conditions, it could be terminated by either party by written notice of cancellation. And there's some agricultural mitigation provisions that would be part of this deal, where the city of Livingston would participate in future discussions to establish an agricultural mitigation program for productive agricultural land converted to urban development. So this would be where prime ag land would be annexed into the city, and then it would be converted to single-family residences or other kind of development. The last item on this would be the city and general plan. The county and the city would confer on general plan issues, and they would cooperate by sharing comments on the county's proposed general plan, and then the city conversely on their proposed general plan whenever it's been renewed. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Council, any questions? This item is now open to the public. Does anybody from the audience wish to come forward and ask questions? Nobody? Seeing nobody come forward, I'm bringing it to council. Further discussion?
Yeah, I'd just like to recommend that we take this back to the negotiation table with the county to see if we could possibly get a better deal on this. I mean, I don't think we're in a rush to accept this at this time.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, and I'll make the comments we did. We appreciate what your comment is, and I hope you also will look at that. We worked for almost a year on a very, very difficult negotiations, and it is my view that this is the best deal we're going to get. So I don't know if anybody else wants to make a comment?
Yeah, I want to make a few comments. Just to, for information purposes for the public here, we did have a workshop earlier today. Several concerns were brought up. We were educated, thanks Brad, on, effects this potential agreement could take on the city. So like I mentioned earlier, this is a, very complicated item with a lot of moving parts. So we, like I mentioned earlier, I don't want to make it seem like we're taking it lightly. So I would encourage the public to ask any questions if you weren't in attendance earlier. And I do see, obviously, we have worked on this for a while, Group Paul. We have been working on this, talking to the county, back and forth, getting information. So, based on that, it was a lot of work, and and it is a lot of work, but ultimately, you know, we do have to look at the best interest of the city. You know, negotiations with the county also are, you know, regularly complicated and complex, and I like I mentioned earlier, I do see the concerns that our council members do have. So I just want to voice that, make sure that, you know, we're not taking it lightly. It's complicated. It is work, but ultimately it's what's going to be best for the community, what's going to be best for our citizens. Nobody's interest should be forefront. It should be, no individual's interest should be in the forefront. It should be what's best for the community, and that nobody's benefiting from this agreement besides the city of Livingston.
Point of order, since council member Aguilar asked if the public would want to make comments. Will that be allowed?
Seeing how important this is to the community in the city, even though public portion was closed, I will go ahead and reopen it just for questions.
This is my question to the Mayor Pro Tem. The mayor and council member Aguilar have been working on this for over a year, and you have gone on the record of saying you want it taken back and renegotiated. Are you willing to do whatever is necessary, move heaven and earth to join the negotiating team and get into that room yourself? Yes.
I am willing to go in there and negotiate. At the beginning of this negotiations, they were picked. So I have no issue going in. And according to these slides that were presented to us today, the city will be negative proposing if we go forward, as Brad had explained to us earlier during the workshop. So my interest is for the best of the people, my family, your family, council members' family. It's going to put us in negative. Somehow we're going to have to fill that gap, either raising taxes in Livingston for our citizens. Do you really want that?
Okay, I am quite aware of the slides. I was watching it online, so I don't need to be taught about what was on the slides. My point is that if you're going to go online and on the record as saying that it needs to be done, are you going to do it, or are you just going to hand it off to others? That's my point.
Like I said earlier, I'm willing. Thank you for your question.
Thank you. Since I did open up to the public, does anybody else wish to come forward? If not, this is now closed to the public. Council, further discussion?
Yes, and I just want to say, Roel, you do have a point, and I appreciate your passion for thinking about the best interest of the community. Absolutely, and I don't have no doubts that you'll be willing to negotiate or be on the table, be there in the meetings and all of that stuff. But like I said, there's a lot of moving parts. It's complicated. I hear Brad's concerns. I've met with him. I've talked to him throughout this year. Being one of the persons that was sat there and talked to the county and had discussions with our mayor. Obviously the county's saying that's the best you're gonna get. But at the same time, like I do, this is just thinking out loud and kind of so you guys understand my thought process is like, is it really the best we could get? Is it really the final best offer we could get? Is there other ways to have a discussion? Is there other ways or means of us influencing them into giving us a better deal? I don't know, that's, that, I don't know if that's, we have exhausted all options or all avenues of negotiating something for our community. So yeah, I do struggle in general with this item. Obviously being the person that kind of negotiate this deal, but at the same time, like, it's not about me or the county. Ultimately, I'm responsible to represent the community. I was put here for that reason. So I do have major concerns about it. I do have major concerns. I don't know if that's the best we're gonna get or what other ways we could do to get a better offer. So that's just things that, in general, come across my mind. So just so we could be clear about it. And I know, just from the comments you guys made here, I know that some of you also have some concerns, and I would like to hear from like the rest of you what your thoughts are that have not put, have the opportunity to do so.
Any further discussion?
Any comments, anybody else?
Well, hold on a second, I haven't called it yet. To me, Mayor Pro Tem is correct, that he feels that he is looking out for the best of the community. But I hope he understands that the negotiating team was also and is also looking out for what's best for the community as well. It's a maybe we can get something better, and maybe not. But for folks that have worked for a year, I think at least deserves an up and down vote. Vote your conscience, vote how you feel. If it doesn't pass, so be it. Then we can form a new negotiating team if that's what it comes down to, and then we'll take it from there.
And I don't want it to be like, all right, we worked for a year and like, yeah, I would work another year, you know what I mean? So it's not about how much time I put in or how many meetings I attended. It's, I don't want it to make it, seem like that.
It's, I don't believe that's how it is. It's that if you work towards something, and when you're negotiating, we know what the other side is. It's not about the time. The point it comes down to is we can say we'll negotiate for 10 more years. But now, comment becomes just like arguing with a used car salesman for, hey, I want this or I want that. You can sit there arguing for the whole weekend, but are you really going to get anything? When you feel that you got the best deal, or they feel that's the best we're going to give. So,
but yeah, I understand that, and I get your point. And yeah, we, knowing the county, knowing what we talked about, still, like, I still, and being part of the team, like, I still question, is that the best we could do? And I'm responsible for the community. Is that the best we could do? I don't know.
The other thing is, in 6 months, the other team could change. We could have 3 more new members on it. It could be a different ballgame.
And unfortunately, unfortunately, it's political, and well, we all know that, and but I know that they're obviously looking out for their own community as well,
And just for the record, I have been on a negotiation team with our department, so I know how it is, and I've been in that room negotiating with them. So I just want that on record.
okay. No, I'm not doubting the abilities, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. That's not what I was going to. So at this point, does anybody wish to make a motion?
The motion to continue, or to go back to the
No.
table?
Well, let me try this. I'd like to make the motion that we adopt a resolution approving the property tax sharing agreement between the City of Livingston and County of Merced. I have a motion by the mayor. Do I have a second? No? Then it dies for lack of second. Okay? Then this item is now, are there any other motions?
Yeah, I'd just like to make a motion to go back to the table and speak with the county on this.
I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem. Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Second by Councilmember Kang. Can I get a roll call, please?
Roll call. Councilmember Baptista?
Yes.
Councilmember Aguilar?
Yes.
Councilmember King?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Garcia?
Yes.
Mayor Samra?
Yes.
Motion approved by a vote of 5-0.
Consent agenda. Items on the consent calendar are considered routine and non-controversial and will be enacted by one vote unless there's separate actions requested by the city manager or city council members. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a member of the city council or city manager requests that a specific item be removed. Item number 2, this is the approval of the warrant register dated September 26th. Approve the minutes of meeting held August 20th. Approve the minutes meeting held September 17th. Agreement with Revenue and Cost Specialist LLC for Development Impact Fee Study and Annual Report. Do you have a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'll make the motion.
I have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Councilwoman Baptista. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed? Motion carried 5-0. Go ahead.
Sorry, Mayor, just a comment for the record. I know the council considered the tax sharing agreement. At the last meeting, the Mayor Pro Tem and Councilmember Aguilar did declare for the record that the fact that they worked for the county, however, they did not have a financial interest in the actual agreement. Just wanted to point that out for the record. And that was disclosed last time at the meeting.
Thank you.
And for the record, I will be excusing myself. I have an emergency and I need to
Thank
leave.
And item number 6, this is the resolution approving the Department of Forestry Fire Protection Agreement for services from the date of last signatory of page 1 on agreement of June 30, 2020, under the Volunteer Fire Assistance Program and Cooperative Forestry Assistance Act.
Good evening. I'll just try to make this short and sweet. So basically, this is our annual cost share. So the CAL FIRE will split. It's a grant from CAL FIRE. So if we spend, we're looking at spending $25,434, and mainly it's structure year for for our volunteers, some radios, and some pagers. So upgrade their pagers so when we get a call, they can hear it at their house and respond to the incident. We put in for $28,000 and we were approved for $25,000. So how it works is we'll pay the $25,000, which I've already budgeted for out of this fiscal year, so I'm not asking for any more money. I already had the money in the funds. It just needs an approved resolution. So this way, the state will be able to split that money and give us back the $12,717, basically. Do you have any questions?
Council, any questions? Council, any questions? No, this item is now open to the public. Okay, if not, then it is closed to the public. Bring it back to the council. Any further discussion? Does anybody wish to make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I have a motion by Councilwoman Bautista. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mayor Pro Tem. May I have a roll call, please?
Roll call, Councilmember Baptista,
Yes.
Councilmember King,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Garcia,
Yes.
Mayor Summer.
Yes.
Motion approved by a vote of 4-0.
Thank you, guys.
Council, any further business? If not, we are in adjournment. Thank you.